Hello and welcome to Spectator TV Australia. I'm your host, online editor Alexandra Marshall, and today we have a very special guest, Adam Crichton, the Senior Fellow and Chief Economist at the Institute for Public Affairs. Adam, welcome to the show.
Okay, thanks very much for having me.
Look, there's been a lot of talk in Australia about our debt problem. We have a wealth creation problem. You've just been to Argentina and seen the wonderful Javier Milei and his libertarian experiment. Tell us what you've seen there. Are there any lessons that Australia can draw from Argentina?
Yeah, look, I think there certainly are. I mean, in some ways, our two countries are swapping. So a century ago, we were both very rich countries. And of course, Argentina fell down the league table very much in per capita income. It's been a disaster for decades. Of course, Australia is still very wealthy, but in terms of regulation and government spending and spending growth in particular, we are going in a very bad direction. And indeed, the direction that they went in, which reduced their living standards so much. And so, of course, Milei has been president now for 2 years, and he's just had a wonderful victory in the midterm elections over there. So he almost has a majority in their parliament or Congress, which is great. His successes so far have been terrific, and that is even without having the Congress on side. He's reduced inflation from almost 300% to about 25%. Of course, still too high, but most pundits over there, most experts think that he's going to get it to single digits by the next presidential election in 2 years. He still has 2 years left of his term. That has been a fantastic result, and that's why his party was so successful in October. He's also reduced all sorts of regulations. The most notable benefit is in the housing market in Buenos Aires, the capital, where he removed all these regulations on price controls and so forth. And actually, the rents fell because there was much more supply came onto the market. And so that shocked a lot of his critics. That was a great success. And of course, he's also redefined the country's foreign policy towards the United States. Historically, Latin America and certainly Argentina has been very anti-American, very left-wing, I suppose you'd say, and he's really redirected the country towards the US and the Trump administration in particular.
Yes, that's a big part of what's going on right now. Argentina is deliberately moving itself into Trump's sphere and the US sphere. A big part of that is net zero, Adam. It is the biggest topic over here in Australian politics. It is toppling old parties. They're tearing themselves apart. But Argentina's got a real interest in mining, in traditional mining. A lot of Australian giants have gone over there. What are your thoughts about the difference between Australia's investment in renewables versus Argentina's push toward traditional mining?
Yeah, well, certainly there are huge contrasts there. In fact, it was quite funny. One of the funny moments of my trip, I thought, was when I interviewed a junior economy minister in the Treasury, a very senior official. I guess we'd call him an assistant minister here. And I asked him, so what are your net zero targets? What are your emissions targets? And I said, it's a huge political debate in Australia. Everyone's talking about it. And he said, look, I don't actually know what they are, which just goes to show you that it's not top priority over there. And this is a government minister. Of course, they do have targets, actually. They're signed up to Paris, just like we are, just like many other countries are. But it just goes to show you that many countries are not taking these targets seriously. And, of course, I don't think Australia should be either. So they are focused on basically having a reliable electricity, cheap electricity, and they use nuclear power, unlike us. They have cheap gas. And just to move to mining, certainly the government over there is seeing mining as a great future export growth industry and a way to earn foreign exchange, which they badly need. They badly need US dollars. So there are a number of prospecting companies, including many Australian companies, that are searching for copper and lithium and uranium. It's a very resource-rich country, Argentina, much like Australia, but their resources have not been developed. One interesting stat is that the total exports of minerals in Argentina is something like $5 billion US dollars. But the neighbouring country, Chile, which shares the same mountain range and should have more or less the same minerals, is exporting 55 billion. So there's enormous potential there for Argentina on the mining front.
Donald Trump very famously, he's bailed Argentina out recently with a little bit of money. Is that an indication that the libertarianism, the free markets is failing, that going through the bureaucracy?
No, not at all. This is an extremely frustrating argument, I must say. And all the lefties, all his critics are saying, oh, but he was bailed out by the US. That's complete nonsense. The reason that the US set up that swap line was because financial markets, the rest of the world, sensible people thought that he was going to lose the election, lose the midterm elections. And that's why financial markets were going crazy, not because Milei was bad, but because he may lose. That's why they were going crazy. And so the US, they came in and they offered a $20 billion US swap line, which is not a loan, it's a swap, it's more complicated than that. And that basically stabilized the peso for Milei. It calmed markets down. And of course, he did win. But like I said, it wasn't about his so-called mismanagement. It was about fear that he might lose.
And one final question, and so important you actually made that argument, because the left have been going crazy about the bailout ever since it happened. Argentina is probably the only democratic, freedom-looking state down in South America. How important is stabilizing Argentina for the West, given that you've got Mexico and Chile and a whole stack of problems with socialism reasserting itself down there?
Yeah, look, I think it's very important. It's a big country. I mean, it's bigger than Western Australia. It's a very sizable land. It's very resource rich. Like I said, something like 46 million people. That's a big country. It's the third biggest economy in South America. It's now the fastest growing economy in South America, thanks to Milei's reforms. And look, it's a big change to the political landscape, I would say, in South America. You're seeing leaders in neighbouring countries start to emulate Milei because his successes are obvious. You see that in Chile, you see that in various other countries, I think also Brazil. So, it's a huge, it's a huge change. It's a huge change more, I think, for the conventional wisdom of economics, which has been that if you cut spending, you'll have a recession. But on the contrary, he cut spending by more than any other Western government probably in history, and it's booming. So it's a great lesson there, I think, for Australia and the rest of the world.
Well, I do wish that economists would question Jim Chalmers more about the successes of Argentina and get him to actually discuss what's going on over there. But look, I know your time is precious. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks very much.
TV.